Greetings, Year 9. We're coming towards the end of our Handmaid's Tale and our dystopia work. But before then, we need to do a chance of creative writing today. Always fun to mark. You'll remember that an adversary is an enemy or an opponent. Please write it down and send us your notes so that we are aware that you aren't just watching the videos, you're doing some work as well. But in the dystopian fiction you've read, 1984, Handmaid's Tale, who are the adversaries of the government? So who is Big Brother threatened by? New word, conservatism. It's a commitment to traditional values or opposition to change. Conservative are often known as right-wing, at best, traditional, at worst, old-fashioned conservatism. But how? There's a really interesting question here. Remember, we did some work on the abortion ban in Alabama a couple of days ago. What parallels could you draw between the concept of conservatism and the American Republican Party? Remember, that's the party that wanted to, known as the General Old Party, who wanted to ban abortion in your article. Try and make some links between that and conservatism, or that party and conservatism. Today, you are going to read an extract of The Handmaid's Tale and use language with deliberate effect. That basically means write as stylishly as you can, in that way that we know you can, to write a speech. You're to imagine you're on a tour bus explaining to a group of tourists what life is like for the following classes of women in Gilead. Or Gilead, sorry. So there's a tour bus on the left, there's a tour bus guide on the right, and Gilead is actually a republic, but not everybody in the world has the restrictions they do in Gilead. So there's a group of Japanese tourists, I think, in one of the chapters that comes to look at how they live. You are going to write a speech for that tour guide on the right. You're going to be commenting on the handmaids themselves, also the Marthas. You met Cora and Rita, the Econo wives, more on them a little later, and the commanders. The commanders' wives, it should be. I put the apostrophe in the wrong place. I need to go out and come back in. The commanders, I'll take the opportunity to explain, there is more than one commander, and they are the elite, basically, and they employ these handmaids to carry their babies. It's the commander's wives. So subheading, please, a tour guide's speech, and then you'll be writing your speech. I'll give you an example of what to do. Read the next extract from The Handmaid's Tale. It's chapter 5. Let's look at some contrasts between the lifestyles of the various women, and then I'll show you what you might do for your speech. So out of PowerPoint, over to Handmaid's Tale extract, chapter 5. That was quick, wasn't it? By the end of the pandemic, I might have figured out what I'm doing. How about this? It's chapter 5. The lawns. Oh, no, I spoke too soon. I forgot to give you some keywords. All right, let's get back. Right, okay, some keywords. Facade means the front. Gilead. Offred is walking with a friend off Glen, and they're just Offred's describing what she sees. Facades means front. Gracious is pleasing. She talks about the gardens being looking like pictures. A sidewalk, as you may know, is a pavement. Fluorescent means a bright glowing color, like those pink and green pens we use. A laundromat, you probably know, is another word for laundrette, where you have washing done. And that's it, really. So let's go back. I thought I'd show you what those words are in case it causes confusion in the extract. So, okay, let's have a read. It's just a page, so we'll just flash through the whole thing. The lawns are tidy, says Offred on her walk. The facades are gracious, in good repair. They're like the beautiful pictures they used to print in the magazines about homes and gardens and interior decoration. There is the same absence of people, the same air of being asleep. The street's almost like a museum or street in a model town constructed to show the way people used to live. As in those pictures, those museums, those model towns, there are no children. This is the heart of Gilead, where the war cannot intrude except on television, where the edges are, we aren't sure. They vary according to the attacks and counterattacks. But this is the center where nothing moves. The Republic of Gilead, said Aunt Lydia, knows no bounds. Aunt Lydia is the head nun, if you like, who looks after the handmaids. Gilead is within you. Doctors lived here once, lawyers, university professors. There are no lawyers anymore, and the university's closed. Remember, those who know the most obey, or those who know the least obey the most. So there's no university, no independent thought. Luke and I used to walk together. This is Offred's former husband. Luke and I used to walk together sometimes along these streets. We used to talk about buying a house like one of these, an old big house, fixing it up. We would have a garden, swing for the children. We would have children. Although we knew it wasn't too likely we could ever afford it, it was something to talk about, a game for Sundays. Such freedom now seems almost weightless. Offred can't imagine the choices she used to have in the past when she owned her own money. We turn the corner onto the main street, where there's more traffic. Remember, she's walking with another handmaid for safety. Cars go by, black, most of them, some grey and brown. There are other women with baskets, some in red, some in the dull green of the Marthas. Now pay attention, my friends. We need to talk about the Marthas, the commanders' wives, the econo wives, and someone else, the handmaids. Some in the striped dresses, red and blue and green and cheap and skimpy, that mark the women of the poorer men. They're called the econo wives. These women are not divided into functions. They have to do everything if they can. Sometimes there's a woman in black, a widow. There used to be more of them, but they seem to be diminishing. You don't see the commanders' wives on the sidewalks, only in cars. So Offred has to carry the commanders' wives' baby, and the commanders' wives live a life of luxury, really, luxury and privilege. The sidewalks here are cement. Like a child, I avoid stepping on the cracks. I'm remembering my feet on these sidewalks in the time before, and what I used to wear on them. Sometimes it was shoes for running with cushioned soles and breathing holes and stars of fluorescent fabric that reflected light in the darkness. Basically, it's a contrast to what she wears now. Bright shoes, bright clothes. I remember the rules that were never spelled out, but that every woman knew. Don't open your door to a stranger, even if he says he's the police. Make him slide his ID under the door. Don't stop on the road to help a motorist pretending to be in trouble. Keep the locks on and keep going. If anyone whistles, don't turn to look. Don't go into laundromat by yourself at night. I think about laundromats, what I wore to them, shorts, jeans, jogging pants, and that sort of thing. So she talks about having choices, her own clothes, her own money. This is important. Men aren't allowed to communicate with handmaids. They are untouchable. Now we walk along the same street in red pairs, and no man shouts obscenities at us, speaks to us, touches us. No one whistles. I'll just jump to their clothes. Now, in front of us to the right is the store where we order dresses. Some people call them habits, a good word for them. Habits are hard to break. The store has a huge wooden sign outside it in the shape of a golden lily. Lilies of the Field, it's called. Then she explains how Lily's, the shop where she buys her dresses, used to be a theatre, and then she gushes over this, how Lily's used to be cinema, and they used to watch movie stars dressed with blouses and buttons down the front that suggested the possibilities of the word undone. We seemed to be able to choose then, but no more. We don't go into Lily's, but across the road and along a side street. That Year 9 is your extract. And we, just to remind you, would like you to imagine you are witnessing those women from a tour bus, or at least describing what you're pointing out what you see. You've written the title, of tour guide speech. I'll show you a model in a moment, but let me just show you this summary of the scene we just read. It's very quick. I made a couple of days ago.
We walk along the street in red pairs. The lawns are tidy, like the beautiful pictures they used to print in magazines. Luke and I used to walk here and talk about buying one of these big old houses and fixing it up. I had my own money then, and my own clothes. Now we have to order our dresses from one shop. It's called Lily's.
How annoying. The start's the best bit. It slightly corrupted, but you can find the whole thing on YouTube. So, tour guide speech. If you look out of the window to the left, ladies and gentlemen, you'll be able to see the famous handmaids. They are identifiable by their red tunics. You may notice that they are walking in pairs. Well, it's for their own safety. Hang on. Is it spelled right? It's for their own safety. It is for their own safety. In Gilead, a fertile woman is as rare as gold. Try and use similes, metaphors, and rhetorical questions for better marks, and are highly desirable to men, but equally, as they lead very restricted lives, they protect each other from their own desires. So the women also have to spy on each other to make sure they aren't fraternizing with men. Can you see the woman over there in the dull green dress? She's one of the so-called Marthas. The Marthas work in the households of the commanders as cooks, cleaners, and so on. They have a sort of power because they decide how many food tokens the handmaids are allowed. Yes, folks, it's a sort of dystopian culture where freedom is extremely limited. Unfortunately, even the Marthas have limited rights, as they aren't fertile either. They would have to escape Gilead and live in exile in the colonies if they wanted any other lifestyle. Exile, lifestyle, there's a slight rhyme there that I don't like, but I'm sure you'd do better. Is that all? Yeah, so a tour guide speech, you have your subheading. Don't forget to write about the commander's wives and the econo wives as well. And if you want to see the beginning of this, which is the best part, I'll attach a link to the end of this when it appears on YouTube. So we look forward to hearing from you on your tour guide speech. Bye for now.